here's here it is. So I'm like, if I start when I want to play music, then I'd have to edit it, and then that's like another step of life. And then YouTube is like you don't have the rights to that song. So anyway, great. Thank you, David, for that brief reminder. Um, and yes. And are you saying, David, that it doesn't feel like spring because it is cold outside? And
Yeah, we had snow a couple of days ago.
I'm just gonna do that thing that you do, which is brag about LA and be like, oh, it's 70 and nice outside. But I do know the feeling of like being in New York, or basically most of my East Coast people, which is like I'm supposed to feel excited, and I'm just like wet and cold. And I know that Howard's here, and he's like, hey, you all can just, be quiet about that because we be cold for a while in the UK. Howard, when I studied abroad in Devon, um, I was like, what is it with English people and tea? Like, why are y'all so obsessed with tea? And my friend was like, because we are freaking freezing. So I think that that's probably true. So everybody, welcome and thanks for being here. Seasonal disorders going on. Luke, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Colorado. Oh, and Colorado people are like, Siobhán, you can also be quiet because at any given moment it can snow. And there's no rhyme or reason. It's a nonsensical universe out there. So, it's funny too. I also feel like weather as a conversation about icebreakers is like it's sort of a standard icebreaker conversation, but it's also very emotional, because it affects us. So when you're like, "How are you? How's the weather?" Well, these things are often they are together. Allergies in New Jersey. I love this. I also feel like there's solidarity in our grievances. So it's like, hey, is everybody how are we feeling about all of that? Now, we're getting into it, saying hello, hello. Guys, I really appreciate that you all kind of know each other in the chat and that you're checking in and kind of, like just seeing how everybody's doing. If this is one of your first times here, I'm so happy to see you. Getty's welcome. And yes, I'm glad we're now following each other on the socials. Super fun. On the social media. Tim, it's great to see you. Terry, your beard is looking good. It's looking good. Yes. I got Howard. I got Renee in a teal blazer. I got John in his with his red walls. It just anchors me in the Ask Me Anything space. So what's up? We're here again, just taking some time to talk about all things voiceover. It's been wild and busy. If you made it to the home studio show and tell, that was a really fun time with like 140 people. Woo! And it got a little. It just got wild, and so that link is finally is up on YouTube. If you missed it and you want to see, Micah, who is here with us, was one of our guests, and he's just a love. And Micah, it was wonderful to have you and talk to you. And also, we've got Michael, who was with us the month before, and his link is on YouTube as well. And Dina is also here. It's just I really appreciate just seeing everybody and the different ways in which we spend time together. So, if we are ready to get into it, I'm ready to get into it. Are you like, is Siobhán caffeinated? She is. She's had one. She's got her other one. She's filling up. And David doesn't do caffeine at all. Am I right, David?
On rare exceptions. Long drives, absolutely. You've only had one coffee? Seriously?
Yes.
Guys, could you imagine Siobhán with like two or three? Okay.
I don't know. Am I the same at the home studio at the show and tell? I think I'm the same, right? Because that's like evening vibes, but it switches. Wait till we get back into the mixers. It's just like a whole new world, letting Kimberly in. Okay. And also sometimes when I'm just a guest at things, that's a vibe. So let me make some announcements before we get started here. Um, okay, I guess I'm just continuing to talk about myself. Boy, tonight I am teaching a content calendar class. It's a class all about strategy. It's a class about social media and not just like what to do, like how to build your socials or how to make them exist into fruition, but to how to really develop a strategy to help you move forward, so that you can really plan. And it gets really into the weeds of what the different platforms are, what they want to see, what they cater to, and how you can kind of grow and develop on those different platforms. So if you want to really get into the weeds of LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, this is the class to take, and it is with me later. So, just see how we just see me in that platform. It's totally different. Actually, it's the same. But that's happening tonight. And then next weekend, this incredible class. I need to try to get myself into this, actually. Animation Fundamentals with Jay Snyder. He is our animation specialist. I put Yu-Gi-Oh! He's the Yu-Gi. Yes, Luke is clapping because we love us some Jay. We somehow got him to teach a class with us with his busy self. And so that's a thing we're very, very proud of. And as always, our Investigate voiceover class for my new people. And I know we've always got new people, and I'm proud of you for diving in and learning and learning. And this class, the Investigate voiceover class, is a perfect place to start for all of the things, that questions you might have, ways to get really much more specific in your beginner fundamentals. And if you want to, train with us towards your demo. Finally, as we've talked about before, our group coaching with David Goldberg is a new program that we've initiated to get you into a coaching climate without that in a more accessible way and in a more communal way. And as we know, community is our thing. I will also say that David has been featured in 2 Clubhouse events in the past month, and we've really enjoyed it. And so if people know of something that you want to have David and I come jump in on, we'd love to be there. David, I'm sending you a podcast inquiry that we're gonna try to get you to, just fill up David's calendar is what I'm saying. We love it, and it's a beautiful thing. So everybody, the way we get into this is if this is your first time, I see a lot of familiar faces, but if not, and if you're just, camera off, welcome. We do this, I'm in gallery mode so that I can see my people, mainly because when I make a joke, I want to see if you guys laugh. And I also want to see if you laugh at David's jokes because, we do different kinds of jokes. So, but if you want to watch this in speaker mode, that's your view options in the top right corner. The chat is where we come alive here. You all are on mute, just so that to keep the chaos from being chaotic. And the chat is something that you can save. At the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little ellipses underneath of the chat, and your very top option says to save chat, and you can do that at the end of our sesh here. If there's anything you want to save, like if maybe just people make funny jokes in here and you want to keep them memories, they're beautiful things. But people also give advice and talk about certain links and resources, and this is a community space for us to do all of that. So here we go. Let's get into it. And again, with me and David, we're anything it gives us a space to really just talk about a lot of different aspects of the voiceover world and the questions that you all have. And whatever you do, says Dave, don't move to Florida because we are full. You know what? I'm not gonna move to Florida, so I got you. But I do like to visit. I really, really do. Okay, so here we go, getting right into it. And sunshine in the UK. That's really wonderful. From Nikita. What's up, Nikita? Welcome, welcome. Her question is, what are the most important edits to make to auditions? Should I remove breaths or noise reduction or normalizing or compressing? David, what would you say is the top thing, it's a terrible word, the top aspect to consider in your edits when you're submitting auditions?
Yeah, that's a great question. Your number one goal is to make your auditions sound broadcast quality. Right, because if a client's going to hire you, they want to know that you can make it sound broadcast quality. So if you give them anything less, they don't have the confidence that you can do it. So that instills, as you said, doing some editing. You don't necessarily need to remove breaths, but sometimes it's more helpful to actually lower them. In other words, sometimes if you remove breaths completely, it sounds weird. It sounds unnatural. So to sound authentic, you just want to lower them sometimes. It depends on the type of script, of course, and the purpose of the script. And yeah, plosives, sibilants, you need to get rid of all that stuff. So yeah, you want to clean up your audition so it sounds broadcast ready, unless a client specifically requests otherwise.
Amazing. And I guess that's also the other aspect of it is what the client is asking for as well is a thing to prioritize.
Yeah, let me throw one more thing though. Sometimes we've had clients say, "Look, we want raw audio. We want auditions with complete raw audio." But inevitably, some percentage of voice actors are going to submit auditions where they don't follow the idea of raw audio, and they actually do some editing. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes that works against the voice actors who do the editing because the client says, "Well, that's not what we asked for, right? We asked for raw audio." And if someone can't even follow directions on, for an audition, how can we trust them through the project? However, and unfortunately for you guys, sometimes it works in those voice actors' favor because the person who is casting listens to an audition and says, "Well, this one's actually cleaner." And this other person has lots of breaths or whatever, and so I've seen it go both ways. I think that if you had to guess, it's better to follow the directions. So if a client does say raw audio, then give them raw audio. And actually, here's what I would do. I haven't thought of this before, but if a client says raw audio, I would give them 2 takes of the same audition. I would say in your slate, take 1 is raw as requested. Following, or after that is an edited take, a clean take, and let them hear how you can edit. That'd be terrific. Even if you take just like 10 seconds of it, so they can hear the before and after. I think that would be great.
I think that's actually a brilliant idea because it's like, here's what you asked for, and here's a little more.
Yep.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So, Michael is asking, can you speak to how important acting or improv classes are to hone your VO skills?
They can be super helpful, and they can be super, super bad for your career also. So, like anything, it depends on the kind of voice you have, the type of genre you're going after in the industry, and the type of acting you're looking at. If I had to say, if I had to give one answer, I'd say in more situations than not, it does make a lot of sense to have some acting skills, some improv skills. In other words, in general, they can be very good. But for certain voice actors who are recording certain types of scripts, for example, very factual material, some certain e-learning types of scripts, GPS systems, sometimes too much acting can work against you because you become a bit too theatrical. So now we go to the next thing that I mentioned, and that is the type of acting you're receiving. If you're taking acting courses or improv courses from someone who specializes with on-stage acting, generally you're going to learn to be overly melodramatic, and that's not so good. So if you are taking acting lessons, I would take it from an acting coach who understands voiceover, number one. Secondly, they understand that you are taking the acting lessons solely for voiceover, and make sure they're teaching acting techniques that apply more to film as opposed to on camera, as opposed to on stage. You want on camera acting lessons, just things that are more authentic, if that makes sense. Because in the on stage world, you're supposed to be very big and theatrical, and that's not so good for voiceover in most applications. So I think I'll summarize this by saying, or I'll recap by saying, you need to really understand what you're doing, the types of clients you're going after, the kind of scripts you will be reading, and understand the acting coach and kind of put the pieces together. So there's just not a one answer, not a one size fits all.
Yeah, I to add to that, I will say, and my experience with in arts education is that it's easier to um, take a person who's overacting and have them rein it in than it is to try to get someone who like cannot access emotional nuance or and try to get them to act it up. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you're doing some training where you're sort of really kind of learning about being expressive and things like that. I have found in the booth too, I mean, like it's fun being an actor. I am, and in the booth, working with coaches at Edge, that they're like, this is really good. Like, let's bring it down and make it more intimate. I've talked about working with Johnny Heller in that way. And I think that that was okay for me to do because of my training and like understanding the sort of nuances and things like that. The other thing I'll say too is that without a doubt, if you are a person that has never taken acting classes or improv classes, I still think it's deeply beneficial because it also builds up your confidence as a performer. And building and anything that makes you feel more comfortable in your body, that helps you access expressiveness or different levels of emotion. It can absolutely be applied to your voiceover work, and a coach can also help you sort of take your training from different places. I mean, we're all sort of composites of the different talents that we have and the different kinds of things that we've learned. I mean, I know people who are like have are doctors or lawyers. They're like applying certain elements of their training to their voiceover work, and absolutely, I think acting is a way to kind of help get all of the things that you are more comfortably into your body, which essential to voiceover, even though it doesn't seem that way because we're in a little space. But you know what I'm saying? So I think those are things to consider.
And those are great points. I will tell you that I've come across quite a number of voice actors over the years who are just natural at this. They're just they just naturally speak really well. They may work in one certain genre, and what they do like professionally, and they make money at it. They do really well as a voice actor in a certain genre. And at times I've seen them say, you know what, let me see if I can step up my career. Let me see if I can go from part time to full time, or from regional commercials to national commercials. And they say, well, I'll take some theater classes. And then they end up being overly theatrical. They end up overthinking their steps. And sometimes it has worked against them. I have also worked with a lot of voice actors, or um, people who are on stage actors who are trying to get into voiceover, and they have a very hard time toning down the theater, an extremely hard time. Just like a lot of old school announcers or radio disc jockeys sometimes have a hard time bringing in that authentic voice. So lots to consider. It really is a personal choice, and you need to, I think ultimately for anyone who's interested in acting lessons to help them with voiceover, I honestly would take at least one session with me or someone, preferably me, hopefully me, right? But someone who can listen to you and say, yeah, I think acting lessons would benefit you, because there will be a list of questions, regarding the kind of work you want to get into and how you want to do it and who your clients should be, and so on.
Awesome. I was typing in the chat. Yes, absolutely. And okay, moving to other things. Geddes was saying, when is the next home studio show and tell? And that's a great question. And I like to answer these questions, and then I'm also just like, I'm like, what is the month and the day? Like, does anyone know? Like, does anyone still feeling like they're like, what day is it? Does like, I know that that should be done. Thank you. Okay, because I'm like, I know that should have been done in 2020, but the other day I said it was 2020. I said that out loud to someone, and I was like, nope, I don't know where I am. The next home studio show and tell is shockingly May 11th. And I'm just like, I'm saying that out loud because it just feels wild. But so May 11th, okay? So join us for the evening hours, and it'll be super fun times. So Getty's putting it in his calendar. I can see it. Oh, you're not making us lunch today. You're in the booth. Yeah. Okay. So that was a question, and then which means that our next Ask Me Anything is Cinco de Mayo. So David, it's a party. Okay, we're gonna bring the party. And Dina asked, what is the difference between my social content calendar class and the social media for voiceover actors? So the social media for voiceover actors was a sort of intro level class on sort of what to do, like creating some of these platforms, like getting involved, what kind of content you can be posting, like how to sort of a framework within which to look at social media as a voice actor. This class is much more in depth. It's only focusing on 3 platforms, and it's really getting into the specifics of the kind of content that these platforms are that are catering to, and the algorithms are catering to, and building a literal schedule for yourself to implement these kinds of strategies. Not a schedule that, like you'll be okay if you don't do it, but one for people who really want to work on strategy and feel like they're just kind of randomly posting and they don't really know what or why. And I believe that as with anything, right, we make a schedule or commitments. I'm going to do X amount of auditions a week, right? You can't really test how that's working until you've done it for a bit. You can't really improve unless you really commit to your schedule, especially as freelancers. You have to, an independent, small business owners, you have to test things before you can really say, well, I tried this and it didn't work, right? So I'm applying those elements of your voiceover career to the strategy of social media and your schedule. And hopefully that doesn't make you feel so exhausted. But here we are. So that's the difference, and hope that is clarifying. From Terry, my friend, asking, David, do you have recommendations for monitor settings inside of your booth?
Oh, that's a new question. Um, no, I don't, but I'll give you some thoughts. I mean, not necessarily with the monitor setting. Like I can't tell you what number to put your monitor at because I don't know what kind of amp and monitor you have. But what I would say is when practicing voiceover, when you're looking to get into the industry, it's super helpful if you practice some of your practice sessions with headphones on and some without headphones on. I would practice some sessions with monitors on, some sessions without them on. I would practice in every conceivable way because you never know what the industry will bring to you. You never know what a client will ask for. So it's better to kind of figure this stuff out along the way. And so even along that route, I would try recording some sessions with your monitors and your headphones pretty loud and others where it's pretty low. Ultimately, listen back, see what works best for you. That's important also. But I don't know. Over the years, I've seen some voice actors who just can only work by listening to their voice coming back in their ears through headphones, and some who just can't do it that way. So again, just be prepared for everything. Well, two things. So I'm trying to recap this here. One, practice every scenario, experiment with every scenario so you figure out what works best. That's the key thing. Know what works best. And number two, at any recording session with a client, be prepared for whatever it is that they ask you to do.
Thank you, David. Hopefully that is clarifying, Terry. Okay, so from Grace, and I know that there's a follow up in this chat.
Oh, wait. Sorry. One other thing. Really important, guys. A third thing. When editing, edit on headphones. Absolutely edit on headphones because you won't hear, let me put this into positive. You will hear a lot more on good headphones. And to that matter, make sure you are using studio grade headphones. Okay, studio grade or broadcast quality headphones. If you use typical consumer headphones, they're not. It's not real sound you hear. Right, what you hear is the headphone manufacturer tries to enhance the audio. They make the treble brighter, they make the bass fatter. I mean, they do things to make the music that you might be listening to sound better. But what's really important for our industry is that you hear the true audio. Okay, so you want studio grade or broadcast grade headphones. Same with speakers if you go the speaker route, which most people don't. But yeah, so get real quality headphones made for a voice actor in a booth who is editing. And again, always edit on headphones because you will hear so much more. Okay.
We've talked
Said
about
what?
No, you're good. We've talked about this last time because Nikita's saying that it throws her off to hear her own voice in her headphones. It's
Yeah,
funny.
and so wait, so what's going to happen? It throws you off. So what I've seen voice actors or I've heard voice actors say to me, yeah, it throws me off when I listen back on headphones when I'm recording. So I record without headphones. So what's going to happen when you get a job and the client wants to talk with you during the recording session? You'll need to keep your headphones on. So there will be situations, lots of situations when you need to record with your headphones on. So if wearing headphones throws you off, it's even more important to you to practice, to train right now with headphones on so you become used to it so you are ready for that recording session.
I recommend talking to yourself more all day, walking around singing songs while you're doing what? Just kidding. I don't do anything like that. But I agree with David, and I think, and he's exactly right because it's about what's going to happen when you're in a session. And it's like if it's throwing you off, I want you to maybe consider why, and maybe just like love your voice, find a way to love your voice a little more because you probably sound beautiful in there, and just getting used to it is part of the thing. It's like, well, I'm sure most people have this feeling. Like, remember when we started zooming and you were like, whoa, that's a lot of myself. I certainly felt that way, and now I'm so used to it. It's like I used to joke that when you're back in person, I should bring a mirror to, like, if I'm talking to David, I should put it next to David so that I can see myself because it's like I'm just used to my own, reflection. But I think that's part of it too. Do people feel like, oh yeah, I've gotten more used to hearing my voice, and I'm good with it now, and I like it, and like and I think that's part of it. And you do your edit, and you're like, nailed that take, and that's good. It doesn't mean you booked the job, like necessarily, but you're turning things in that you're really proud of because you're like, I nailed it. I sound so good. Um, okay, so Grace is asking, and there's a follow up, so I'm gonna follow it in the chat. Should voiceover actors be expected to know how to master audio for most voiceover genres? And Dina said, do you mean master like mastering a track or like being an expert? And then Grace said, Dina, by master, I mean making the audio ready to use, like equalizing, limiting, other functions other than just editing out parts. Though normalizing is pretty simple. I mean, do I just need to make the audio perfect to use more or less? And Dina said, great question. Thanks for clarifying. This is a beautiful chat. Okay, so David, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, the answer is yes. That's it. You absolutely need to be able to make the audio perfect. Not every client wants perfect audio. I mentioned this earlier, some clients want raw audio, but a lot of clients will want processed, completed, broadcast ready audio. It's absolutely something you should be able to deliver. And it's not hard to do. It just takes a while to learn. That's a big difference. I'll say, assuming that you're somewhat new to this, working with the audio editors is pretty akin to working with like a word processor. You think about a word processor where your commands are cut, copy, paste, insert, delete, save as. I mean, you have the same commands in an audio workstation, which, by the way, audio workstations we call digital audio workstations, and most people call it by the initials DAW or DAW. So when you're working within a DAW, you should absolutely practice with the equalization and the limiting and all of the different processing. And if you want help, I'm sure that we can help you at Edge Studio with that.
Speaking of which, in that context of those questions, perfect segue to John. Does Edge have intensive training program for voiceover specific engineering? Aside from like our demo program classes. If not, are there training programs, David, that you know of that are live or online that you would recommend?
Yeah, two-part answer. Good question. We have classes in general home studio. So we have some classes on microphones and classes on which digital audio workstation to use, or the differences between the more popular ones and things of that nature. When it comes to actual hands-on training, that's done privately. We do offer it, but not in a class form. That's done privately, because what we've seen over the years is that taking a class on general engineering is very difficult, because students always inevitably they come in at completely different levels of experience. So there might be someone who's pretty, skillful, and they're just looking for some shortcuts, and someone else is absolutely brand new. And having them in the same class is just not fair to both of them. So it's done privately. And also we've seen that when you work with someone privately, they learn significantly faster. So an hour or two of private training is really akin to like a week-long course, 10, 20 hours of training within a class. It's just hands-on. And yes, we offer that. It's great. And if you have any concern about your editing, or you're not sure if you're delivering really good audio to a client, then I would definitely look into some training on that. That is absolutely a critical question, and therefore a great question to have asked.
And I think it's a really good point, David, because I was like, oh, would it be fun to have like a engineering sort of like program? But then you're right, because everybody's working with different things and different settings, different like just I mean, different digital audio workstations. Like, there's so
Yep.
many things that would be so hard to have like one class, unless it and like even if you did like Pro Tools for beginners, I suppose we could do something like that. But I think to David's point, it's more efficient if you want to do like a Pro Tools session to book a consultation, and then you get one on one. And while it's more expensive than a group class, you get to work for an hour with someone, you and Dan Friedman in Pro Tools, right? Like you get to do that. So I think it's just a better it costs more money, but it's a much better use of your time and the value that you will get out of it for one-on-one training in your home studio setup, your digital audio workstation, your soundproofing, like your mic, all of it is like it's so very specific to you. Your home studio is unique and special, just like you. Oh boy. Okay, I love making David laugh. All right, now I'm like lost my place in the thing. Anything else on that? Oh wait, no, here we go. Anything else on that, David, or do we feel pretty good?
Yeah, I was thinking of throwing a little anecdote in, and since you asked, I will. I was really teeter-tottering on whether or not I should. I'll throw this in more specifically to the previous question about headphones and that you should purchase quality grade headphones. I had a voice actor who was very experienced and been around for a long time. She's terrific. She's very well known in the industry. And she came to me one day and said, I don't know what's going on, David, but I'm booking nothing. It sucks. I've gone from like so full time, and she had actually hired an editor. She was out of time to even edit her own stuff. So she would record and have someone else edit for her so she could be recording onto the next thing. She said all of a sudden her bookings just stopped. Couldn't figure out what was going on. I said, something's up. Send me a recording. I listened back to the recording. It was evident within a second. I called her back and I said, I remember the phone call with her. I called her and I said, there's like this massive low end rumble in your recording. Of course, no one's hiring you. What's happened? She said, really? I said, yeah, really. It turns out that she had moved. This is in New York City, and she had moved apartments. Well, the new apartment was directly over a subway, but she did not have quality enough headphones or high enough quality headphones that the headphones would reproduce the low end. Right, the headphones would not reproduce the bass. So when she listened back to her recordings, to her ears, it sounded completely clean. She thought she was providing this terrific, clean recording. And by the way, she did need to provide broadcast-ready, usable audio, and it wasn't so. Now, all it took was just a quick EQ setting to lower the low-end rumble, and it made her recording so much better. So again, this is, I guess, reflecting back on the necessity to use good headphones, to edit on headphones, to understand what you're doing, take a course in home studio engineering so you know what to listen for. These things are really pertinent. This is the work you deliver to a client. That's the link between being successful and not, right? So it has to sound good. As much as you are a voice actor, you are also a voiceover engineer. And it's critical that you perform both of those tasks really well. It's a shame, for whatever reason, that so many voice actors put their heart and soul into the acting end of it, the voice acting end of it, and not into the engineering end of it. Both are absolutely critical. Fortunately, you can hire an editor, as I mentioned in that anecdote. So there are quite a few editors out there.
This is why it's so annoying when people are like, "Why don't you just do voiceover?" Because that's like it's like it's something you could just do, you know. I learned in an acting class that no one ever just does anything. Like, why did you do that? Well, I'm just. He was like, no, you're not. No, nobody just. You have a motivation. There's something happening here, and voiceover is not something you can just do. Um, and speaking of like people who are like getting into it, Lauren is saying, as a real beginner, I love that. A real beginner, not a fake one.
Yeah, yeah.
A genuine beginner. Is it a good idea to take Investigate voiceover class again when I have most of my home studio set up? I don't have any equipment yet. Are there other things I can do before I set up a home studio? That's a good question. What do you think, David? Does a new person need to build a fabulous home studio before they learn about their vocal technique?
As a real beginner, I would absolutely not build a home studio. Number one, you don't even know if you have the ability to do this, right? You need as you referenced, the Investigate voiceover class that we offer, sort of like an evaluation course. You need a course like that for an instructor to say, yeah, it makes sense to continue into this industry or not, right? That is so critical. Because if you don't have the ability to do this, or even if you find that you just don't like it, then you will have avoided spending money on a home studio. Second thing is, you need to figure out where your strengths will be in the voiceover industry. You might come out of an investigation class, the Investigate voiceover class with us, and you realize, you know what, I should be narrating audiobooks. Or maybe I should be recording promos, or maybe it should be national commercials. Well, to some degree, different microphones excel in these different areas. And so, like, I guess you're putting the cart before the horse by buying the studio and putting it together before you're involved in the industry. It is really important to have a microphone at home just to practice with, but it doesn't have to be a full-fledged studio. You could buy a USB microphone for $100, at least to just start practicing. Go through your coaching sessions with a $100 USB microphone. If your coaching sessions go well and you're going to move into this career as a part-time or full-time professional voice actor, then absolutely then reinvest into a better microphone and some pads on your walls or moving blankets on your walls and do it up.
Thank you. 100% agree with David that honestly, I think that one sort of motivates and inspires the other. So this is your instrument and you already have it. So it's present with you, you live with it, and and as you train for it, you start to kind of like get some confidence in yourself. You start developing the skills. As to David's point, whether or not this is something you can actually do, whether you're ready to do, and you're not investing in other instruments that you don't actually already have. And I think when you get to start recording your demo, that's when you're kind of like ready. You're like, okay, now the next steps are like, you can audition. As David points out every session, you can start your journey before you have like a setup as beautiful as Dina's or Terry's or, Micah's, I'm just Howard's, right? You can get started before you're like totally fleshed out like they are. It's 100% true. And so you're training with your vocal technique. That's your lifelong instrument. That will never change, except for how it evolves and grows and gets better. But like your gear in your home studio is always going to change. So I think definitely starting with Investigate Voiceover, thinking about your genres, thinking about your wheelhouses, thinking about growing your strengths, developing and paying attention to your weaknesses. I think all of that is part of the journey before you just like spend $5,000 and you're like, what am I like? How do where am I? So agree. Hard agree with David. Oh, so there's questions. Yeah.
Wait, Siobhán. But I would say that spending $5,000 is never necessary for a home studio. Like that dollar amount there's no reason why you would have to spend that much money unless you buy a custom built booth. But most voice actors don't. Most voice actors spend a couple $100 on a microphone. They go for a very good USB microphone, which is $150, $200. Or even if they buy a condenser microphone, you're looking at a good one for about $1,000, $800 to $1,000. I mean, that's the most you'd spend. Good headphones would cost you $75 or so. And then you need a mic stand and music stand if you want to read off of something. Those aren't that expensive. The cost is going into the acoustical treatment of your studio. And so, as I said, if you purchase a prefabricated booth, those are expensive to get a decent one, right? But a lot of voice actors, the vast majority of voice actors, just hang blankets on their walls. They stuff couch cushions in the corners of their booth. They put carpeting on the floor and carpeting on the ceiling, and they make a padded room that doesn't necessarily look attractive, but it works really well. And it should not cost you $5,000 at all.
Preach. Okay, beautiful. There are requests for gear recommendations, like what kinds of headphones. And I think I know what David's going to say. David, what are you going to say about recommendations for headphones?
Yeah, it depends on you. There's so many factors with headphones. I mean, I can recommend some brands and things like that, but you might find that a brand is not comfortable on your ears. And if it's not comfortable on your ears, then you're not going to want to wear it long term, which means you're going to have a hard time getting through long recordings and long editing sessions. You need to find headphones that are comfortable at the same time that they have good sound quality. Remember, broadcast quality or studio grade quality. There are lots of good names in the industry. Sennheiser makes some terrific headphones. AKG makes some great headphones. There's so many brands out there. You can call a company like I think by far, definitely my favorite music retailer is Sweetwater. If you're unfamiliar with that name, it's sort of a strange name. I see some thumbs up. Sweetwater, just as it sounds, sweet like a candy, water as in something you drink. Sweetwater.com. The guys there have a professional division. Oh, sorry, I should say it's a music retailer. and they have a professional or broadcast division, and they can really walk you through what kind of headphones would be best for you. But still, you want to make sure that they're comfortable. Oh, what I would say, definitely get headphones that go completely over your ears. Okay, as opposed to AirPods or something that goes, or earbuds. You want something that completely covers your ears. It helps block out other sounds so you can better concentrate on the audio, and it helps prevent sound from coming out, getting back onto the microphone. So again, another reason to go with higher quality headphones.
I have a helicopter like directly over my head. Can y'all hear it?
There's a little noise, but I wouldn't. Doesn't sound like a helicopter.
Okay, well, good. Central Los Angeles, it's always this happens any time of day or night. It's like, we keep it really exciting here. So, interesting question from Luke in the chat. Uh, and there's a there. So I think the essence of what he's asking is, can I? So let's say, David, that I book a job and I do the role, but ultimately the client can't use it for the project because the terms change, or the project itself changes, and they're like, oh, we're not using this this audio. Can you still put it on your resume as a job that you had? Because technically you did it, they're just not going to be using it. What do you think?
Outside of a couple of factors, absolutely. I mean, if you're paid for a job, you've done the job. Whether the client uses it or not is indifferent. And Luke, to your question, there's nothing different than recording a commercial which gets massive airplay for 13 weeks on national TV, and then eventually the company stops using that same advertisement, right? Advertisements don't play endlessly for years and years and years, but you still may keep a clip or snippet of that commercial on your commercial demo, for example. No different. Whether the client uses it for 2 years or 2 minutes or not at all, you're paid for a job, you can use it. But there are, some other circumstances. If you sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, I certainly would not use it, right? Because that will really upset the client, rightfully so. They could sue you. Outside of a couple of minor things like that, absolutely use the audio. By
Yeah.
the way, it's really nice if you contact the client and say, hey, you did a great job on this. Like, I love the way you wrote the commercial. I think your script writing is fantastic. Man, your production team is amazing. I really like the way you directed me. Like, give them a compliment and say, I'd be proud to put a snippet of this on my demo. And if anything, it's further promoting your company, rather than just do it. If you want some, a little extra, a reason to give a customer a little confidence and thank you, that's a great reason to do so.
That's true. A job is a job. They paid you for the job, then that's awesome. I mean, certainly lots of us have done internal, you know, um, narration trainings that are for a very small group of people that no one else will ever see or hear. But that's a job. So wonderful, wonderful, y'all. I did Google's holiday party online in 2020, and I'm like, Google's a client. So okay, weird world, right? But there it was. So the person who asked this question, it looks like is no longer present, but I like the question because I think we haven't talked about it in a while, and it's important regarding Edge Studio training. So as you all know, we train people to record from beginner to demo essentially, and you work with a private coach to be demo ready, and we do it globally, anywhere in the world you can work with us. Obviously, if you live in Seattle, you are not near you're not near us in New York, and you're not really near our sister studio in Los Angeles, and so you can't record with us. So what do you do when it's demo time? Well, of course you could fly to New York or LA, and lots of people do that, and that's a fun business expense. Okay, so you could do that, but then the question is, what do I do if I want to record, let's say, in Seattle? Well, I'm just that was the first city I thought of. So she asked if we will look for the studio and like tell you to go record there. And there are instances where we know of studios that our lead engineer Kevin, as you know, combined with David, have approved of their quality, that they are good enough for you. We want them to be good enough for you, okay? So we have to approve of them to make sure that it's gonna work for you to record there, for us to then produce your demo. However, we I'm just answering this because I've worked in this department. We cannot go find you the studio. That's just a lot for us. We have a lot to do. And if we did that for every student, we we wouldn't really be teaching. We would be, I don't know, scouting studios. So it is on you if you're going to record remotely to locate studios and have them send us audio samples. We'll handle that and we'll talk to them and approve or not approve. If we don't approve, if we're like this isn't going to work, that would mean that you have to continue your journey. David, am I missing anything about that? Have I got
No,
it?
no, that's good. I do have a couple of things I'd like to throw in. Number one, I need to publicly correct Siobhán on one thing. Sorry, Siobhán, but he said traveling to New York or LA, could be a business expense. I don't know that to necessarily be the case. We have to always say that that is friendly advice, not legal advice.
Forgive me. Yeah, I'm so
Hope,
friendly.
yeah. Hopefully, you can deduct that from your taxes. I mean, that would be fantastic, right? I mean, to me, personally, it seems like an absolute business expense. You're flying to New York to record a demo, but we can't say with confidence. And I'm sure every state has different tax laws and so on. But definitely, I would ask an accountant or something that question. Yeah, a few thoughts. One is, I think that the reason why we don't necessarily help anyone who's recording a demo find a studio is more so because it takes us a long time because we don't know exactly where you live and what studios are next to you. Like we'd have to be going to like a map program to figure out. So what we will tell you anytime we work with a student who's not right next door to one of our locations across the country, we'll say, here is what you need to find. Here, and we have this written out already. Like you need to find a studio that can do these 15 different things. They have to have voice microphones appropriate for voiceover. They have to have recording booths that are appropriate for voiceover, because a lot of studios are music studios. They don't know a thing about voiceover, and we give quite a number of technical qualifications that they must be able to produce. And so you can go out and say, you can call the studios in your town or down the street, or maybe you're comfortable driving 3 hours away. I don't know. And that's the thing we don't know. And once you find studios that you think qualify and that are in your drivable area, then we take over and we work with that studio. We make sure that the studio, we listen to, as Siobhán said, we listen to samples of that studio. Myself or our lead engineer will go back and forth with their engineer and make sure that that studio can really provide you with the quality that you deserve. And then, then you can go there and record, and we patch in digitally. So they stick you on a microphone there, but we actually record at one of our locations, typically in New York, and we direct you through the session. It's just like you're in New York, but you're not.
Just like it, except not. And yes, David is right. Friendly legal advice. Talk to your accountants and advisors and things like that as you move forward. Just another thing for y'all to do, right? It's so good. Carla, first of all, thank you for the compliment in the chat. She said she missed my energy. And Carla, that really made my week. So thanks for saying so. She's asking, so if you create a demo in a studio, but you're going to do your auditions and work from a home studio, does the demo really reflect what you can deliver?
This is something that we have thought long and hard about for many, many years. Technically, because you're recording somewhere else, it's not the exact same audio that you will deliver. However, we work with the studio that you will record your demo at, whether it's one of our personal locations or a studio that we approve. We work with that studio to make sure that the quality is broadcast quality, and then we give in the training programs that we have at each studio. There are included home studio classes because we want to make sure that you also eventually get your studio to sound broadcast quality. So, technically, while the levels may be slightly different, for the most part, you should be able to match the sound quality. It is, I've mentioned this now like 3 times in this call. It is so important to have good quality audio. And so whether that is coming from your home studio or a studio that you go to record the demo, I think you're fine. We haven't ever had a problem with it. We have thought about it quite a bit, but I don't know. It's so easy these days to have good quality audio that you should be able to do it from your home studio. Like I said, even with moving blankets and sleeping bags and carpeting, your home studio can sound terrific. So I think you're fine.
And I hope people check out it just went live on YouTube, the home studio show and tell from last week. with Dale Strickland's setup, which was freaking awesome. Like with a blanket over the, like it was really great. It was really great, and he books work. So he's like, his space looks nothing like Edge Studio, but it is. But he's like he's doing it, and he's trying to plan for the future of how the kinds of things he'll do to upgrade. People move, right? Like there's like for those who are like set, and you're like I don't know in a happy relationship living in a house that you'll probably live in forever and you've got your home studio. I mean, that's great. Most people I don't think have that necessarily in life. Get yeah, right. It moves us around. So your sound quality matching perfectly your demo. I think to David's point too, like clients aren't like, "Hey, I just listened back to your demo and it sounds a little," I don't think that I think that is less of a thing.
And on top of that, the demos typically have music in the background or sound effects in the background. So yeah, it's you're fine. You really are fine.
We really are fine. Okay, well, we are like, I think I got all the questions, David. Do you want to say anything else in your? We've got 6 minutes. I'll do closing announcements, but would you any last words on the day and the things from that we've talked about today?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the questions that came in and see if I can expand upon any of them. A bunch of them were about studios, home studio, the microphone choice. You know what? There was one other point I was thinking of making to one of the earlier questions about when someone asked about taking a home studio course, and I was speaking to how there are certainly classes that we offer, but for the actual engineering, it should be done privately. There are so many variables when it comes to your studio. It is so important to learn from someone who knows what the heck they're doing, because as I mentioned, there are different microphones out there. But not only are there different microphones, guys, but there are different like styles of microphones. Whether you go USB or condenser, I mean, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of choice out there, and I guess ultimately the thing to know is that what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for you. That is so important. I'll repeat it. What works for one voice actor, even a very successful voice actor, may be horrible for your voice, right? So you need to work with someone who truly understands what it is that you are doing, your technical skills, the kinds of scripts that you will be recording, the kinds of clients you want. You need to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and then you purchase a microphone based upon that. You also purchase a microphone based upon the acoustics of your studio. Now, hopefully you have a studio which is very dry, meaning there's no echo involved in it. But still, there are different microphone choices, as I mentioned earlier, right? Different microphones for promos and for audiobooks and so on. So to the woman who asked the question about purchasing a studio prior to training, this is yet another reason why I would not purchase a studio at this point. Do your training, and through your training, once you get a grasp on where you belong in this industry and how your voice works, then you can start putting together your home studio.
Thank you, David.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think people are also really great things like Micah. I rent, so I put together a modular recording space that can change in any space I'm in. Everybody's doing different stuff, which is so hard when we're like, when you're doing a group of 50 people, and you're like, what should you do? Well, everybody's doing different things, and some people get success in a totally different way. I mean, the whole thing. You all know the ways that this varies. So with that, though, I just want to again I express my gratitude for you coming here. Your smiling faces are truly a genuine joy. I love your Zoom squares, and I'm so grateful for y'all. And again, I'm just going to drop our upcoming things in the chat. Carla, you are great. Thanks for being here and appreciating what we do. So we got group coaching with David. We got animation fundamentals with Jay. We got social content with me tonight. Investigate voiceover is like ongoing, all kinds of classes happening there. And if you're like, I need a home studio consult, Mr. Dan Friedman is your man for that. And you can book a coaching session with him. Also, if you want to bookmark, if you're like, I just love Edge Studio, I have this link tree that I built for us, and it's always changing with upcoming Zoom links for the free events. Sarah, the education director, and I are talking about a virtual mixer again happening. Fun times for those. I'm also host for those as well. So hooray. So if you follow Linktree, you can see things like that. And additionally, we have our, in general, if you're like, I want more group classes because I like those, class schedule. A lot of the stuff that we are doing is continuous and ongoing, and we appreciate you. So upcoming events, community wide, are the AMA. The next AMA is May 5th, so I can't believe that April's over. But that's happening, and then the Home Studio Show and Tell is the following Wednesday, which would be the 11th. So thank you all for being here. Howard, appreciate you. Wide-ranging and motivating, as are you. And I love that soft pink lighting. Okay, and so everybody, you're the best. Thank you, appreciate you. David, thanks again for spending these sessions with us. It was, it's great to get to have these hours with you, and I appreciate your time and your devotion to this community.
All right. We all appreciate, I know I speak on behalf of everyone. We appreciate your caffeinated energy, which is terrific. Remember, everyone, you can download the chat. We'll give you a couple of seconds to download that chat if you want, because of the link trees that Siobhán stuck in there. And if you want to be able to remember the questions that were popped into the chat. And yeah, thanks for being on, everyone. It's awesome. It's great.
Very good point. You can save that chat by clicking that ellipses, and it's the top thing you see participant can chat with, but above that is your save chat. If you're a person who wants to save your chat. Okay, everyone, thank you. See you in May. Appreciate you all so much. Mwah. Bye.
Bye, everyone.